Okay, so this is an important program because it discusses a technique that you're going to be asked to do on your practical exam for exam 2. And basically it involves generating a random number, which you know how to do, but generating a random number within a specified range. So for example, this is a fictitious program and it's a dolphin chipping program. So let's say a dolphin swims up to our research boat and we're going to chip that dolphin, and the number on the chip depends on the type of dolphin that it is. The common dolphin will get chips within a specified range, like maybe 1 to 100 or something like that. The bottlenose dolphin will get chip numbers of 101 to 175. How do we generate a random number between 101 and 175? This program will show you how to do that. And then the humpback dolphin will get its own chip number depending on that range of values. So let's go ahead and code this together, not the whole thing of course, but just this part, which is where the functionality is in that get chip number button. When that button is clicked, then the functionality is going to be in here. So here are the business rules. Okay, we have common dolphins will get any chip numbered from 1 to 100. Bottlenose dolphins will get any chip number from 101 to 175. And humpback dolphins will get any chip numbered from 176 to 260. And it's not difficult to do this, but you have to follow a system that I've outlined pretty clearly. It'll be in this video, and I also have it documented so you can read it. And basically, well, let's just start. We'll set up like an if-else structure, and we will just get the skeleton of that in place, and then we'll worry about this random number stuff. So we'll say if FC controls. Now of course our checkboxes are already set up and they're coded to behave like radio buttons. We talked about that thing that we have to deal with in this class. So, alright, so if the common is true in that the user selected it, then they're going to get, I'll just put a note in here to guide us. They're going to get chips from 1 to 100. Okay? Or else if do a little copying and pasting. This one is the bottlenose. Okay, and he will get chips from 101 to 175. We'll talk about how to do that. And then lastly, if we've made it this far, we must be dealing with a humpback whale, so, or a dolphin rather, so those would be chips anywhere from 176 to 260. Okay? Alright, so let's do the first one, the common dolphin. That one's an easy one because you don't really have to specify a range. Well, it is a range, but the range starts at 1. He gets chips anywhere between 1 to 100. So that's almost like when we did we generated the random number for the die roll. We wanted numbers 1 to 6. So this is just like instead of 6, we're using 100. So this is an easy line of code. We'll say chip num equals, and we use math.getRandomNumber, which you've seen before at this point. And then if I provide an argument of 100, that's the max number that will be generated, or the maximum number. So that is going to generate chip numbers from 1 to 100. Nothing that you really haven't seen before in this class, in previous videos. So the tough part is when the range does not start at 1. Looking at the bottlenose, we have to generate chip numbers from between 101 to 175. So how do we do that? Well, basically, this is the process I want you to follow. Well, let me just get the code in place that we know. Okay, we're going, whoops, didn't want that. We know we're going to use get random number. Okay, but what do we put in here? Okay, now you may be tempted to put 175 in here. But what will that do exactly? This line of code as is will generate any random number between 100 and 175. No, not 100. Between 1 and 175. 1 and 175. We don't want that, okay? We want between 101 and 175. So the first step in this process, well, you know what, I'm going to squeeze in here and add a couple of notes. Okay, step 1 in this process is you will determine what I call the span of the range, or how many numbers are in that range. Okay, how many numbers are in the range of 101 to 175? If we were to look at this range on a number line or plot it out on a number line, how many notches are we talking about? Now this one's kind of easy because we can eyeball it and say, okay, well, that's 75 numbers, right? 101 to 175, that's actually 75 numbers in the range. But sometimes they're not so easy like this. Could you eyeball this one? How many numbers are in that range? It's not so intuitive when it's not starting at, you know, a 1 value. So here's how you can determine, here's a foolproof way, surefire way to determine the span of the range. You subtract the low end of the range from the high end of the range. So I'm going to, I have the calculator up. Okay, so I'm going to say 175 minus 101. Okay, so I've subtracted the low from the high. 175 minus 101. Okay, and then you add 1 to the result. So I add 1 to that result, and I have 75 numbers in that range. Okay, so that's step 1. Determine the span of the range. Well, let's do like a little outline thing here. So step 1A is subtract low from high. And then step B here would be add 1 to that result. Okay, so whatever number comes out of that first step, you plug into get random number. Okay? But we're not done. And you can probably look at this and be like, okay, that's going to give me random numbers between 1 and 75, which is definitely what we don't want. Okay, so that's only part 1. Part 2, or step 2 here, we're going to offset. And when we offset, we're going to add a number to the end of this. So we're going to offset, and we will offset by the lowest number in the range minus 1. Okay, so what's the lowest number in the range? 101, but minus 1 is 100. So 101 minus 1 is 100, and that is the number that we will offset by. Okay? So, and that's the process, and that's basically how it's done. There's nothing beyond simple arithmetic, but you just have to be careful and make sure you don't take a wrong turn. So let's do it for the humpback dolphin, which has its own specified range of numbers, chip numbers. So in this case, the humpback dolphin can get a chip number from anywhere from 176 to 260. So let's start by putting in the code that we know. Chip num equals math get random number. Okay, what do I plug into here? Well, step 1, we determine the span of the range. I told you the foolproof way to do that is to subtract the low number of the range from the high number of the range and then add 1. So here we have 260 minus 176 plus 1. So I'm going to say 260 minus 176, okay, plus 1. 85 is the span of the range. So I'm going to plug that into the get random number method. All right? And then we have to offset. Step 2, we offset by the lowest number of the range minus 1. The low end of the range here is 176. Minus 1 would be 175. And that's it. Okay? So I guess the only thing left to do here is something you already know. We will set the text for the, there's a label in here that will display the chip number. It's called LBL chip num. And we'll just say something like this. And concatenate the chip num that we generated. And that should do it. Okay, common dolphin, he gets 1 to 100. And, just run through it. Click it many times. Make sure you don't get an erroneous value. Really, the only way, and that's not a surefire way either, because these are random numbers. But, just click it several times and make sure you don't get crazy value. But really, what you need to do is invest the time writing the code and following the steps. That's the way you're going to check it and make sure you're not off with your numbers. Okay, the bottlenose, he was about 101 to 175, and it looks like all of those numbers are in that specific range. Okay, and then the humpback was between 176 and 260 it was. So I'll get the chip number, and we can see they're all in that higher range there. So it is working, and this program is available for you to look at, as well as a document that outlines all of those steps that we talked about in this program, in this video.